Good morning. I trust you've had a wonderful week. Welcome to the show, the premier political show in Kenya that is on Sunday, that is Inside Politics. My name is George Maringa. Thank you so much for making time for us. Today we are going to have a little some discussions regarding the governance and political issues surrounding the country, all the way from what has happened in the last 1 week, especially in the Azimio La Umoja coalition party. Remember, some MPs are claiming to have been shortchanged. We shall also be looking at President William Ruto's diplomacy. Remember that this week we did see South Africa scrap off introduce the visa-free regime for 90 days for Kenyans. What happened this time? We also did see the deals that the president closed in Egypt during COP27, especially with the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, as well as other issues surrounding the diplomacy of the president, as well as Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, having some reprieve following his court case. Remember, the charges were dropped, as well as the ruling that was issued by the anti-corruption court. These and much more coming your way. My guests, part of them are already here in studio. Mark Bichachi is a communications strategist, as well as Dismas Mukua, political risk analyst. I shall be joined by Ishmael Nyaribo, a lawyer, to discuss this and much more of the political issues and conversations happening in the country. As always, we invite you to join the conversation online at KTN News KE, at George Maringa _ use the hashtag Inside Politics. Once again, we thank you for joining us. To set the pace, let's begin the story. And Jubilee Party MPs are now threatening to leave Azimio La Umoja coalition party, claiming to have been shortchanged by their ODM counterparts over Parliamentary Service Commission plots. The MPs are demanding a slot in PSC after Senate Minority Whip Fatuma Dulo's name was removed from the list and replaced by that of Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni. And as KTN's political affairs reporter Daniel Kariuki reports, Jubilee suffered a blow after Speaker of the National Assembly Moses Wetangula ruled in favor of ODM.
The Azimio La Umoja Parliament honeymoon seemed to be over, and the affiliate party is now engaged in accusations and counter-accusations. Thursday, Jubilee Party was up in arms, claiming a slot awarded to them in the Parliamentary Service Commission had been grabbed by the ODM counterparts.
This is to bring to your attention that the 3 slots were assigned, one to ODM, the second slot was assigned to Jubilee, and the third slot was assigned to Wiper Party.
How did Waluke miss the list? Because Waluke was duped. We were duped as Jubilee, and everybody was duped. Who removed his name?
Wednesday, Minority Whip Fatuma Dulo was kicked out of the nominees to the PSC by the minority in the Senate, a decision that was endorsed by the Senate, with some members accusing her of nominating herself to the commission without the knowledge of the leadership.
The Azimio leadership, to fast-track this, call for a meeting and allow Jubilee to nominate a candidate's choice to the Parliamentary Service Commission.
We urge the Speaker of both Houses of Parliament to suspend this afternoon deliberation and consideration of approval of what amendment that was done by the Senate regarding the nominee of Parliamentary Service Commission.
But Jubilee's plea to the Speaker did not bear fruits, as National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula ruled Jubilee was time-barred.
Honourable members, I've taken the liberty to peruse the Azimio La Umoja 1 coalition agreement, faulty as it may be. I have noted that the agreement makes absolutely no mention of the sharing of positions in the commission. That alone deals a fatal blow to the claims made by the Jubilee Party. When added to the fact that the claim is made after the House has voted on the matter, it becomes rather clear that the horse has already bolted and the stables are closed.
This is now widening the seemingly cracks that have started dominating in the Azimio coalition.
You have experienced firsthand the conmanship, the politics of deceit, and political banditry by our brothers in Azimio Party.
After ODM, Jubilee is the second largest party. So it's not something that we are begging, it's our right.
Jubilee says most of their members were disgruntled by how they have been treated in the coalition, even during the formation of committees in Parliament.
ODM handled the distribution of committees. And I want to say this. We were not coerced to join ODM in Azimio. We joined willingly, and if they mistreat Jubilee members, we leave them willingly.
Will the coalition sustain the political turbulence being witnessed in the two houses? Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Of course, some Jubilee party leaders are now threatening to walk out of the Azimio coalition if the issue of the Parliamentary Service Commission PSC slot is unresolved. And the leaders, of course, in a press briefing on Thursday, accused the Orange Democratic Movement ODM party of, what they called conmanship, claiming Senate Minority Whip Fatuma Dulo was delisted and replaced by Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni. Of course, Omogeni, as you've seen, was picked unanimously in her place for a quote-unquote strong personality, and the Jubilee MPs led by Sabina Chege faulted ODM for taking 2 out of the 3 reserved PSC slots at its expense, and ODM had nominated Mishi Mboko from the National Assembly and Okongo Mogeni from Senate, while Wiper nominated Patrick Makau, and they claimed that according to law and that the Azimio agreement, the slots were to be shared out so that both ODM, Jubilee and Wiper parties got 1 slot each, and they threatened to walk out of the Azimio La Umoja agreement. Bichachi, perhaps I could begin with you. What you make about this quote-unquote short honeymoon by the, Azimio, especially when you look at the Jubilee party as well as, the threats that have happened. First of all, will Azimio's last going by the events of the last week, will Azimio last any longer?
You pose good questions, and thank you for having me on the show. You pose the question that will the Azimio coalition hold for the period of 5 years until the next election? Well, I will go back to history and remind you that clearly there is no coalition in this country that has lasted more than 5 years. Okay. Whether in power or out of power, what we have seen is consistently our politicians will align and change positions every 5 years. So I do not expect any coalition to remain as is until the next election, because historically that's not been the case. But also the current wrangles in Azimio point to a more subtle issue. And what is that issue? The issue is that opposition politics in this country, if that, has very few packs to give to its members. The pickings are quite slim, and when the pickings are quite slim, whether in a business, in a partnership, or in a marriage, there is a lot more friction. Why? Because people want to be appreciated. People want to feel like they've got more responsibilities and they've got more resources that come to bear. That is very clear. So the pickings are slim in opposition. But let us also remember, this is not the only time ODM has been accused of mismanaging its partners. ODM did the same thing to Moses Wetangula. He said the divorce would be messy and loud. It was postponed until the elections of 2022, and indeed it became messy and loud. So ODM has traditionally, being the elder brother in opposition politics, has traditionally frustrated its partners, and I hope that it's learning that it needs to accommodate its younger brothers, its smaller brothers in the coalition. But also, and this is my last point on this, the Jubilee, ODM and Azimio leadership as a whole, we've not seen them moving together and having a lot of meetings chatting the way forward. That might also be the other thing, that the Azimio coalition needs to come together, needs to put its head together and begin to find out, number one, how are they going to coexist for the next 5 years? And also, how are they going to handle the current government in terms of offering an alternative voice for the next 5 years? How are they going to do that? That is the question that Azimio has to answer above positions. People want answers. When we talk about Hustler Fund 50 billion, what is Azimio's answer? Do they support it? Do they oppose it? We need that extra voice. Right now, what we have done is we've allowed this country to almost operate as though it is a one-party state. Why? Because Azimio is not giving out its voice, and they need to.
Indeed, and you raise pertinent issues right there, and I want to bring in Mokua on this, especially on this whole Azimio thing, and the Azimio La Umoja Coalition Party, outbreak of pact and, you know, disagreements here and there. Same question I posed to the church. Do you think the coalition will last after, you know, perhaps even this week?
Well, you know, the coalition would have lasted had Mr. Raila Odinga become the president of the Republic of Kenya. Because in the history of Kenya, the glue holding political coalitions is actually power, is the presidency. And also you realize the key players have been driving in two different directions. Retired President Kenyatta has joined the international global space with his peacemaking efforts and left the coalition with Mr. Raila Odinga. But as indicated earlier on, Mr. Raila Odinga has got these high appetites of burning bridges, actually blowing up bridges on every occasion. That's part of the reason why CORD collapsed. That's part of the reason why NASA collapsed. And one can easily bet that if Raila had capacity to maintain friendships and maintain his bridges, probability of President Ruto being president today would have been significantly reduced. But for him, wherever he's got a position of authority, he likes cutting all those bridges. And when you look at the nominations for the Parliamentary Service Commission, it would have been prudent for Mr. Raila Odinga to exercise two principles, equity and equality. In as much as Jubilee may not have as many numbers as ODM has and Wiper in the coalition, but Jubilee has a valid expectation that they are going to be treated with equity and equality. That is why they were fighting for that position. So the reason or excuse given as to why Mr. Okongo Morgan replaced Dulo is some sort of voodoo logic, because they are claiming that Mr. Okongo Morgan has got a powerful personalities. And I don't know the nature of the Parliamentary Service Commissions, whether it's actually a wrestling match or what is required is intellectual intercourse, intellectual conversations. So for me, I think Mr. Raila Odinga and his political party have given their coalition members a very raw deal. And if a President Kenyatta doesn't come in and step in, then we'll be celebrating the collapse of Azimio as we know it.
Yeah, Ishmael, thank you so much for joining us. Picking up from what Dismas is talking about, if President Kenyatta doesn't come in, you could see the collapse. But again, President Kenyatta appears to be keen on focused on other interests. Yet he is the chairman of the Azimio la Umoja coalition. There is the involvement, of course, of ODM leader, or rather Raila Odinga. When you look at interventions and how all this is playing out by the quote-unquote juniors or other members of Azimio, what does it speak to the leadership of coalitions moving forward?
I think we have to agree. Today is Sunday and a lot of people are in church. And I think it's important we bring out their honest views and feeling as well. Who can do it differently? If you look at Jomo Kenyatta, and we came to Moi, now then Kibaki. Probably Kibaki tried to do it differently, but even him, his siblings were accused of trying to use favoritism and the state power to ascend. For example, the president of the Republic of Kenya, I mean, his daughter, when he was deputy, she worked out there as ambassador. So I think that when brothers are fighting, those sibling rivalry should be left to individual parties to sort out. But in reality, when you look at the practicality of how things are happening in the country, nobody has proved that he can do it differently. Nobody has proved that he will not serve his family. No one has proved that he will not look close to his... In fact, a whole list of appointments from the PS and the cabinet secretaries points to cronies and friendships, and those are the people you reward because they are the people near you, they are the people you know. If you look at Winnie Odinga as a person, vibrant young person, why would she not be a member in the ELA? If you look at Kalonzo Musyoka's son, I mean, it's a good lawyer, and he has what it takes to represent Kenya. But anyway, what you are asking in terms of coalitions and how they go forward, it is true that the standard should be everyone should be given a chance. Even those people with no experience at all should be given a chance. But to victimize necessarily what ODM is doing, apart from just using that as a thesis to improve, nobody has proved that they do it differently. They all do the same thing. So I think just to victimize one particular individual is just to show that we really love this particular individual.
Mokwa seems to disagree.
Yes, Ishmael has, with a lot of success, assaulted logic that because it has happened in the past, it's there for a best practice, and we need to take it forward. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, looking at the Iyala nominations, there's absolutely nothing wrong for Raila Odinga to have Winnie Odinga as part of the nominees, or Kalonzo to have Kalonzo as part of the nominees, because, you know, they are Kenyans, they meet their bare minimum, they are qualified to hold these positions. That one does not, you know, assault Chapter 6 or even Article 10. But what is the perception?
Yes.
The issue is the perception. Because people back in the village are saying, wait a minute, should we be now supporting these two candidates so we create job opportunities for their sons and daughters? Does it mean that the rest of Kenyans don't have sons and daughters? It's just a matter of perception and how you intend to build your brand. Because if you're talking about receiving a beating during this election, then 2027 is going to get complicated, because people will say you did not become the president, but the little powers you had, you use them to further your family objectives. Why can't you create opportunities for other Kenyans? And you know, one would understand. Like, for instance, Raila Odinga, he comes from a political family, but he decided to craft his own political trajectory. He built his own trajectory and ended up being a powerful political leader. He did not do this because he was Jaramogi's son, but he was a beneficiary of the brand. But you can give him credit, because his elder brother, who was supposed to, you know, from African traditions, inherit everything, at that time he was busy elsewhere. But Raila carved his own reputation. So the people back at home, when they look at that list, they see Raila as a family member, they see Kalonzo's family member, they start asking those fundamental questions. So what happens to the rest of us if we are not known to the party leaders? Will we ever secure public office in Kenya? And there is a big difference between when you are given a position simply because of your brand, or when you go through the Public Service Commission, as Ishmael has tried to confuse us with.
Let me just right of reply. Let me tell you. You know, Raila has come a long way.
Yes.
And Raila is fully aware today that a lot of people will be nothing. They would not have actually even become anything if they did not ride on his back. And Raila Odinga has seen much later that some people actually don't mean good. So tell me, I mean, and I agree entirely, we are not going to have a family be the people leading the whole nation. You pick your son, grandson, and all that. That is unacceptable. But I am trying to look at the people throwing stones as a form of trying to correct. So you're literally trying to correct only Raila Odinga and correct his family. But if you, and I did not say we should perpetuate this, but if you are put in that office, you do the same. So I think we should not try to say that it is his children or his family. We should just say that, like Omogeni was arguing the other time in Parliament, everyone should be given a chance, and you should give people the chance. So if Raila has given all these people the chance, and then when it comes to sunset day, so to say, if it doesn't hurt the ODM people, then you say, no, you see, now he's going for his children. I think that's being unfair, because who is taking care of those children anyway? Who has proved from the other side that he's going to take care of them?
Bichachi, you've been urging to come in.
Yes, because let us be very clear that every Kenyan, regardless of who your father or mother is, has a right to be anything they want to be. All right? Dr. President William Ruto's family has a right to be ambassadors, has a right to be business people, same to the Kenyattas, to the Mois, and all of those people who've had power. That is true, and it is a fact. Why? Because you should not be rendered incompetent by virtue of your birth. But it should not be that in exercise of the powers of your father, then you have access and advantage over everyone else simply because your father, by the stroke of a pen, is the one who has the ability to appoint you. That is where the flaw comes into play. If these Iyala nominations were a consequence of a free, open and fair process by which Winnie Odinga is then chosen to be an IALA member, I would have no dispute. But because she's chosen by dint of the power that her father has and the liking that her father has for her, then this process is wrong. Okay, and this is like running something, because it's a public office. It is not a Raila Odinga or a Kenyatta family private business. It is a public office. It serves Kenyans, 50-odd million of us. So I have to agree with Dismas on this, that it cannot be that when you have the power, you simply choose. In fact, I prefer the route that Oburu Odinga took this time, in that he went to be elected. That is a better route than being appointed by your brother. And this kind of practices, where someone who has power decides that my daughter is going to be this, my wife is going to be that, needs to actually stop. What needs to happen is let there be a meritocracy in this country. Let people, let me ask a question, and not because he's my friend, but let's look at Philip Etale. Right? Let's look at how long he's worked for ODM versus Winnie Odinga's short stint with her botched marriage at State House. Who would you reward of the two? You know, these are the questions that we need to ask. Are they uncomfortable? Yes. Are ODM people going to be angry? Yes. But they need to be asked these questions.
We have 2 minutes to the break. So as you come in, I'll ask each of you, beginning with you, Dismas, had the odds changed and it's Kenya Kwanza time and, you know, William Ruto at the helm, would we have seen this as you come in?
You know, there's a valid expectation that equity and equality play at all spaces. Yes. So whether it's Kenya Kwanza, whether it's Azimio, the leadership has got that national obligation. And my question is, IALA is a very important institution when you're looking at the East African Common Trade Area, that we want to promote our business across the region. Now imagine you walk to the IALA assembly and all your colleagues know that you are in that assembly not based on meritocracy, because your father is a powerful personality in Kenya. How do they treat you? How do you get the peer recognition? How do you start shining among your colleagues? How do they even, do they place a premium on your contribution? Those are the issues you may want to ask. Everything could be procedural, that, you know, you've gone through meritocracy, you've hit the high notes, but how do your colleagues treat you? And then number two, have they demonstrated that they actually understand the intricacies of IALA and where Kenya stands? These are the issues we are supposed to be asking. And as Bishash has indicated, they may be qualified, yes, they may have gotten these things on merit, but what is the perception? And I know Ishmael is really boiling over, but we know we must look at our national and public interest in arriving at these people, because IALA is not a joke.
Okay, but Dismas, I agree, by the way, but there's an end over there we are not agreeing on, just trying to throw the stone. This is the problem. If any of you was at, you know, as a child of a teacher who is a headmaster and you are in the same school, you could be a victim on every front. I mean, everyone would think that you're being favored because your father is probably a principal or a headmaster in the same place. If you look at the character and person of Kalonzo Musyoka's son, for example, and you look at the character of Winnie Odinga, forget if their parents were leaders of the stature they are. And then you look at Shaban, who is complaining about, is it Shaban from Mombasa, isn't it?
Yes, Mombasa.
He is a qualified lawyer. Shaban, he is such a qualified lawyer, a great man. I mean, people like him from Mombasa. If you talk about Winnie Odinga, because she has not held office, in terms of become a member of parliament or a senator, who is she within her circle? And you see what's happening in social media. So that is a strong, powerful person. To start to associate her with her father. And in fact, these people are being voted for. I mean, before they go down to Arusha, they will be voted for. They are crying on media, please vote for me. So I think the process being used once a nomination has been done. We had problems in nominations in this country in March, and everybody was crying, oh, there is no democracy, there is no democracy. So I just want to avoid this concept of attacking a particular individual just because everybody is riding on their back.
Attacking individuals.
I think that's being unfair to a family, in my honest opinion.
Let me tell you, if these appointments were for Nyaribo Incorporated or Nyaribo and Sons, and you appoint your son CEO, we will say nothing. But when you take your position as a father, and you, whether it's Kalonzo or Raila, and you decide to appoint them to high office to the detriment of many other people within your party, then there's something wrong with that, because the perception of it, the idea of it, is that family has trumped every other issue of competence, loyalty, etc. That is something we cannot run away from. And no one has said that Winnie Odinga is not qualified. No one has said that Kalonzo Jr. is not competent.
Yes.
All of them are competent. The problem is how does it look? If Kalonzo's son was today put in Kalonzo's farm or Kalonzo's factory as CEO, no one will complain.
Indeed.
But Yala is not a private institution.
That's how you need to take a break from. When we come back, we discuss more regarding President William Ruto's diplomacy tactics and what you've seen happening in the deals between South Africa as well as the United Kingdom. Do stay with us.